Welcome into another edition of the Holton Ahlers Show. On the other side of the break, we got Josh Aldridge, the new defensive coordinator for the Pirates. Kind of a lot of unknown about this guy, so we're excited to learn about him, excited to meet him. Hope you enjoy the show. If not, as always,
Holton Ahlers turns, and Holton will take off and run himself. He's at the 40-yard line. Holton Ahlers to the 30. Look at him go! 20, 10, 5, touchdown Pirates!
There's local politics, bud.
It's showtime!
and welcome back into the Holton Ahlers Show. Coach Aldridge, welcome to the show, man.
I appreciate you having me.
Let's go. I'm pumped, and it was kind of weird, but also cool. Like most of the coaches we've had relationships with, or like I've played with, or Cade and our other co-hosts have played with them. Like you're a new guy, though. You're around here for the first time. So, first of all, how's your transition been to Greenville to ECU and kind of seeing the guys?
It's really unique for me. Every job I've ever taken was with a new head coach, but this is the first one, which is a good thing. It's a great thing.
Yeah.
But this is the first one. Normally, when that happens, you have a brand new staff.
Yeah.
A ton of new people, or you came with them or whatever. This is unique because I'm really the only new guy. You know what I mean? Like even like our corners coach, Teron Williams, he used to work here.
He was here when I was here, yeah.
So even though he just came back, I feel like I'm the only new one. So I might be the one teaching them the defense or what we're doing, but they're the ones teaching me the day-to-day of everything. Like, here's how you do this or do that around here at ECU. So it's been a great experience, though.
Heck yeah.
It's made it an easy transition for me. Normally, you got to go to the top to ask a question on how you do something or achieve something at a place.
Yep.
But just to have all those guys who have worked here for that amount of time, and then obviously the head coach sat in the chair I'm in now. So that makes it an easy transition, too.
This podcast is brought to you by Anson Belt. Over 10,000 combinations of micro-adjustable holeless belts. Look, they're an ECU company. They got ECU Jolly Roger belt buckles with purple belts. You'll see the coaches wearing them on game day. Over 10,000 combinations. You can mix and match the buckle. Make sure you go to ansonbelt.com. Official belt of the East Carolina Pirates and the Holton Ahlers Show. We love them around here. Next, I want to give a shout-out to Kairos Float and Wellness Studio, 2800 East 10th Street. They got float tank, sauna, cold tub, salt halo therapy, everything to make sure that you're the best version of you. Go to 2800 East 10th Street. Kairos Float and Wellness Studio will make sure to do that. We love going there. That's how we keep our bodies rejuvenated, feeling well. Next, I want to give another East Carolina company a shout out, Roofing Solutions. ECU Pirate Club member owned, 252-702-3395. Look, they do roof repairs, replacements, gutters, siding, exterior, insulation, storm restoration. Look, they're Google guaranteed. Make sure you go check them out. They actually did my gutters, did a great job. Did in like 2 hours. They threw up the gutters really fast, so shout out those guys as well for support of the pod. Hey, last but not least, I'm wearing it today. Spread Jesus hoodie. Make sure you go to builtwhenbroken.com. It's actually my company, so shameless plug there. But builtwhenbroken.com is a Christian apparel company. It means a lot of different things. You can read up on the story if you haven't heard it already, but go check it out. Some cool stuff. Thanks for support on the pod. Yeah, you talk about Coach Harrell being a defensive coordinator, and fans loved him here. Obviously, he's the head coach here now. And his defense was fast, physical, and then just blitzing everywhere. Playing against practicing every day. It was just driving me crazy sometimes because it was like, usually as a quarterback, you like study the defense. You're like, all right, this is unsound, so they're not going to do it. And then when Coach Harrell got here, I was like, all right, this is unsound, they're not going to do it. And then they do it. I'm like, well, freak, what are they going to do now? How obviously you're going to bring in your own defense, but are you also going to keep some of those blitzes and keep some of his scheme intact as well?
Yeah, we obviously had those conversations on the front end, and there's a lot of similarity. Really? There really is, yeah. There's a lot of similarity. We might massage a certain coverage a certain way differently, or we may call this call a little more frequent than he did, but it's a lot of the same stuff. I've always been a big believer, even if it's something I've done a lot of, really your defense should manipulate to your players every year.
100%.
Because defense is different from offense. Offense, you dictate the game, right?
Yep.
You do what you do type deal. Defensively, you have to adjust to the offense. Well, it's also adjusting to your players because you can't ask a defensive player to cover this route if that's what he's not good at. We got to have a certain way to massage it, as opposed on offense, you can dictate it, right? So as a defensive coach, I think it's really big that you have a big enough menu to be able to adjust to your players year to year. So you'll see a lot of similarities. There might be some things he called more that we call a little less, but it's still there and we'll do it. There might be some things they didn't do that we'll call a little more now.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of both.
You talked about the big menu. You've heard some coaches say keep a small menu and just know exactly what you're doing. Some say keep a big one, like you just said. How do you, keep a mix kind of both? And then how do you make sure that they get enough reps, especially when the season gets around, like in season? How do you make sure they get enough reps at, the specific coverages that they're going to be running most of?
I think we try to teach in a lot of concepts, right? Just like you do on offense. Where there's a lot of same as, where you learn one thing, you learn three.
Yep. Makes sense.
By day 5, we're still installing things, but it should be, hey, this is the exact same thing at day 2, except we just moved this guy right.
A little disguise.
You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think that's how you're multiple on defense is you create a lot of same as. We can play the same coverage with a bunch of different presentations or changing up who the fourth guy is. We can play the same front by either lining up in it or slanting to it, and it's the same fit for the linebackers, right?
Yep.
So I think that's my job as the coordinator is to find that line you're talking about where we have a large enough menu, but where to draw the line, and 2, how much same as can we create where when they learn one thing, they learn 3.
Yeah. When Coach Harrell first got here, there was a lot of like pre-snap movement, like a move call, and they would move a lot. Mm-hmm. Is that something we'll see a lot of with you?
Yeah, for sure.
Nice.
I think stemming the front and the coverage is a huge deal.
Yep.
The game, begins and ends with the quarterback.
Oh yeah,
right. Okay, so it begins and ends with that. I mean, it's the most important position on the field. I mean, I'm a defensive coach, but I have no trouble in saying that. Truthfully, us having a great quarterback here is another reason it attracted me to come here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, that means something. Seriously.
Oh, yeah.
Like as a defensive coach, you want to go coach somewhere where they have a quarterback. And so, so going back to what you asked, our movement up front as well as the back end is critical to how we can change the looks for the quarterback and the offensive line.
With the speed of this offense, have you practiced? Like, have you had an offense coordinator the speed that we have now? Because obviously that is something that with the movement up front, like I even felt like this year with Coach Harrell's, like obviously we had older guys, last year's team, but they didn't move as much, and I thought a little bit of that was going up against a team that is so tempo during practice. Like, how do you kind of manage that?
Well, I worked for Hugh Freeze for 6 years.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm used to it.
Yeah.
And so. I think me and JDB have had conversations already about how you structure practice and things like that, where we're going to give them certain looks, or they're going to play with the ultimate pace, and we've got to adjust to it and whatnot. So I think you've got to find the right time to do those things. Really, most offenses play really fast to calm you down on defense.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Simplify.
If I go really fast, I'm expecting some type of vanilla look or something. We've got to be able to execute where people cannot, like I said earlier, the offense tries to dictate the game. We've got to operate where they can't dictate what we do.
Absolutely.
And don't get me wrong, there's some calls we can't call for certain situations and all these things, but we've got to operate at such a high level that we can still do our stuff, whatever we want to do, whether they're going fast or they're huddling.
Yep.
So that is a huge part of today's game, being a defense coordinator.
You talked about Hugh Freeze a little bit. What are some other coaches that like you've learned under, like, really have taken, I mean, obviously Hugh Freeze is an offensive guy, but just anyone who has kind of impacted your coaching career, offensive or defensive.
I'm really, really blessed that the 3D coordinators I've worked closely with in my last 3 stops have been DJ Durkin.
Dang.
Ron Roberts. So DC at Auburn, the DC at Florida, and then Scott Simons, who's the DC at SMU, who's one of the top coordinators in the country. So, I've taken something from all of them.
Yep.
Some of them I've taken more of leadership things. Some of them I'm taking more scheme. Some of them taking more organization. But working for those 3 guys as defensive minds has been critical to my career. Simons actually coached me in college, so we're best friends. We've got 2 kids that are 2 weeks apart that are best friends too. And then Coach Roberts, that was the defense I kind of adopted when I was the D coordinator at Liberty. Was his defense from Baylor?
Okay.
And then I just got done working for Coach Durkin, who is one of the best defensive minds in the country. So, all three of those guys have been critical to me.
Yeah, I feel like with JDB too, like he came from an amazing coaching tree as well. And I feel like when you're young, like that is, something that, you watch his play calling, especially the more, like last year was his first time calling plays. Like later in the year, I mean, he was dialing up some sweet stuff. So it'd be cool to kind of see all that. How has your relationship been like? I know it's hard right now because like y'all are probably on the road recruiting and stuff, like with the players. Like how are you connecting without like being on the field every day, if that makes sense?
I tried to meet with as many of them as I could. I met with several of them actually during the bowl game because I was actually at the bowl game. So at the hotel, I would grab them periodically and have conversations with them. And then I met with a few more right after Christmas before we went on the road. And then there was a weekend I came back. I took a position group out to have breakfast for an occasional meal. And then we, just trying to do things like that.
Yep.
Obviously the linebackers are the one I'm spending the most time with right now. I think, one thing I was trying to let them do because you had so many new guys.
Yeah.
Is trying to respect their time too because they're trying to get adjusted and things like that. So I think more of that'll come this week and next week.
Cool.
Where we can sit down and have more conversations. And another thing is I didn't want to take away from the position coaches as well.
100%, yeah.
Because we have a new corners coach, elevated Coach Buttersworth to an analyst, so he's kind of helping out with the star position a lot more now. And then we kind of shuffled around how, Roy Tesh is coaching the end, nose, and tackle now.
Okay.
And Rico Zachary's coaching just the outside linebackers,
Okay.
So just letting them kind of adjust to their groups too,
How has you mentioned, one of the first things you mentioned is like you came in and like you were the new guy, yet you're the defense coordinator. Like, how does the process of teaching the coaches the playbook before letting them teach, like how is that process? Because that has to be different.
Yeah, what I tried to do when I first got here was I wanted to know what they called certain things and what they did because I'm trying to create a lot of same as for what they did previously as well. So
makes sense.
So if there's something that Blake called microphone and I'm also running that, but I called it something else, we're still going to call it microphone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Makes sense.
Just trying to where the kids don't feel like it's just some wholesale new deal, right? So that's what I was trying to figure out early on. So really, they were more teaching
you.
Yeah. So I would say, hey, I want to run this. Did y'all run this? Yes. Okay. Talk me through it. And then I'd say, yeah, that'll stay the same. This will change.
Okay.
And we did that for about 10 days. And then now it's more of, all right, full speed ahead.
Get into it.
Here's what we're doing.
Yeah.
So, but man, they're a great staff. I obviously knew coming in that I wasn't going to get to bring a bunch of guys. And that attracted me too. I've known Roy Tesh since I was at Lenore Ryan, 2018.
I love him.
I've known Rico Zachary since he was a high school coach in Georgia. When I worked at West Georgia, Rico was the head coach at the high school there in that town.
Oh, wow.
That was in 2014. So I've known both those guys forever.
Yeah.
And then I've known Blake since 18 as well. So, I just felt really comfortable with them for guys that I'd never worked with. It felt like we had already worked together.
Yeah, it's awesome. And then, obviously the SEC, to the American, there's going to be different in playing styles. How do you think that will affect your play calling, or is that something you'll kind of adapt to as you go?
I think football's football. I think the only difference in this league that you're going to face, you face the academies that run different offenses and things like that. So, but ball is ball. In the SEC, it's a grind of a schedule, obviously. You know what I mean? But this league is too, man. This is good ball. This is a great conference. Like everybody when I took this job, Colin telling me, man, that's a great league. That is deep. It is deep.
Yep.
You look at. I think this conference had the best record in bowl games this year.
Yeah.
So it's a tough league.
Oh, yeah.
So the whole going from the SEC to here, I don't. There's a difference in maybe a little bit of depth, but besides that, there's a lot of similarities.
Yeah. And then, obviously you were in a good position. You have a good relationship with Coach Hugh Fears. You talked about Caton a little bit and that being a draw here. What were some other draws that you said, this is the job that I should make the big move? Because, look, taking a job is a big risk in football. So,
I was a coordinator at Liberty, and once you get a taste of that, it's hard to give it up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I knew I wanted to do that again. Didn't know when. But you want to go work for the right guy. And Blake, I've known. I think a lot of people would say a lot of people would be nervous about going and working for the former D coordinator or whatever. You know what I mean? It's kind of like when you take that history class and the teacher's teaching on what they wrote their dissertation about. They're about to crush you, right? You know what I mean? That's not a good idea. But that's not how Blake is at all.
Yeah.
You know, and I truthfully welcome his input and want it, you know, because he's done a great job everywhere he's been. When I was the DC at Liberty, we played, so that had been 2022. We had several crossover games with ECU. So, like, we played BYU before.
Yeah, that was last year.
Before y'all went out to BYU and beat them.
Yep.
We beat them like a drum. And
we barely beat them.
Yeah.
Because we watched y'all's game and we're like, they're not good. Then we went out there, we're like, this is not the team.
No, yeah. So, I mean, that was a perfect storm a little bit. But anyways, we talked a lot that year. We had talked more before that.
Okay.
But that kind of really got our relationship going, and I had always watched his defenses, and Blake's been that too. I mean, I've seen his defense change over the years, and how he's adjusted and things like that. So, just a ton of respect for him, and I was really eager to go work for him.
Yeah, 100%. Is there any guys like the linebacker core specifically who I know you haven't been on the field with them a lot, but is there any guys that have stand out that you said like this guy's probably going to be a leader for us, or too early?
Probably too early. I mean, they're all standing out. Like, they're all working really hard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a honeymoon phase. You know what I'm saying? So, they're all working really hard. I mean, I'm eager to see some guys that maybe didn't play as much last year play more. You know what I mean? Because, you know, they obviously lost the two most productive linebackers last year with the young man who transferred to SMU. I can't remember. Zakai.
Yeah.
And then the one who graduated from Georgia Southern,
Mike. Was it Mike? Yeah,
Mike
Edwards.
So, Mike Edwards. So losing those two, that was a ton of snaps.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So you got a lot of guys who have played but not played a ton. So I'm excited, like Julian Davis. You know what I mean? I'm excited to see him play more. You know what I mean? Jackson Barker's moving back to Mike linebacker.
Let's go. I love Jackson.
So Sam Donka is going to play more inside linebacker so that we can have
he's huge.
That way we can have him, JD, and Raheem on the field at the same time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what I'm going back to, like, getting your best guys on the field and adjusting your defense the right way. So I'm just excited to see those guys take on a bigger role. Who's going to be a leader yet to be seen.
Yeah.
So
you've been around some good head coaches, some really good head coaches. Like, how has Coach Harrell like maybe surprised you? I mean, he's new to this too. I mean, he's learning kind of on the fly as his first head coaching job. Like, how do you think he's done? So you can't say he's done bad, but just like, how's he running it so far?
I think he's doing really well. He's just so humble.
He is.
He's a very humble guy, and I think when you're a coordinator, you're an assistant coach, and you step into a head coaching role, probably the first thing you're going to do is fix things that you didn't like.
Yeah.
Right. You know what I mean? And he's done that, but also you can see him navigating the table or the people around him. Like, what else can we do? You know what I mean? Like, what while we're on it, what can we do? And then on top of that, he is so great with the players. I mean, he is all about. I mean, he means what he says. Like, they are the most important people in our program, and he does that. He acts that way. He doesn't just say it.
Yeah.
And so, I think that creates a lot of buy-in. And when you operate that way, I think you steal a couple wins that way. I think you're a 9-win team instead of a 7-win team. You know what I mean? You're a 10-win team.
People believe in you.
Exactly. You know? And that's why they won all those games down the stretch, really.
Yeah, that's why you guys the job.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, just win all those close games. That will make the difference in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
So that's what he's done a great job with.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know. I just want to ask you a couple more about like your coaching career.
Yeah.
Like, usually people have like you look over like my career, for example. Like, my freshman year, I played and kind of got beat up, and we didn't play good. Like, but there's usually like a point where you're like, I could have gave up there, and like you could have went and gotten sales or done whatever, but you decided like I'm a be a coach, because coaching is grind. Yeah, it is. Like, was there ever a moment where you were like, am I going to go all in on this? And then like, if so, this is what I got to do.
I went to college to be a lawyer.
Really?
Yeah. So I was pre-law. So, but I figured out that just because you're good in school doesn't mean you like school.
Yeah.
And so that's so Like I got like a high GPA or whatever after my freshman year, and I'm sitting here like I really don't enjoy this. Though. So do I really want to go do this for this many more years? So I'm just looking around for what am I going to do, and I asked my advisor, what can I do that I won't lose all these credits? And so you can be a history major. I'm like, what am I going to do with that? I was like, well, you could be a teacher one day or something. I don't know if I want to do that. And so, but then literally the same day, it was Tuesday practice. I go to practice, and you look around for how people impact people.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like you want to have an impact. Whatever you do, you want to impact people.
Yeah.
And nobody impacted more people than my position coach, Paul Simmons, at Harding University. And so I said, I want to do that. And so that's when I decided to become a coach. Now, in terms of did I ever think I didn't want to do it? My very first job I took was at Ouachita Baptist. You probably never even heard of that. In Arkadelphia, Arkansas. Moved my city girl wife down there, and she cried every night. So I probably thought about it then. But besides that, no, I've never thought about it.
So were you GA then too? GA life?
No, so I was a GA at Lindenwood University in St. Louis for 6 months one spring, and then I got offered the D-line job at Ouachita Baptist, making like $20,000 that nobody wanted, and I took it, and I thought it was the best thing ever. The first job, but I take my wife down there, and she did not think it was the best thing ever. So, but yeah, so that was my first gig. So I coached D2 ball for six, basically 7 years. Before I broke into Division I. So.
How was that like? I mean, that's a grind in itself.
Yeah.
Like, how was that? And then, like, did you know, like, I want to get to D1, or was it like, look, I like this life, but I just want to, like, you know what I mean?
No, yeah, I always wanted to climb to the highest level. I mean, it's no different being a player. You want to play in the NFL and all those things.
Yep.
I think D2 was really good for me because you wear a lot of hats. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, Ouachita Baptist, I'm the D-line coach, but I'm also the equipment guy. You know what I mean? At West Georgia, I'm the D-line coach, but I'm also the NFL liaison and the recruiting coordinator and all these things, So it's just it makes you really humble,
Sure.
and makes you learn how to. If you can navigate being a coach while you're doing those things, you can definitely do it when you're not doing them.
Yeah.
So, and I think that made me really organized, and just being able to navigate through wearing all those hats.
Yeah, probably makes you humble too. When you do get in position, now you have GAs who can pretty much do whatever for you.
I like to think that I don't treat those guys too bad because I've been in that role.
I've seen some coaches though.
Yeah, no doubt. There's some.
Well, appreciate it, Coach. Good luck this year.
I appreciate it, man.
Hopefully we get you on before the season.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Yes, sir. What an interview. Honestly, I'm really excited for Coach Aldridge to be here. Look, I've talked to some people who were around him at Liberty. In fact, not a lot, but a couple of Coach Mo's staff went to Liberty with Hugh Freeze, who had connections with him there. So when he first got the job, I reached out. Everything I've heard is really, really good, even from former players. I know Tegan Wilk really likes him. Some of the other guys, returner Sam Dunker, really likes him too. It's exciting to hear, first of all, that he brings up some of these guys and the experience. And then also, one thing that was very refreshing to me was like the relationship that he has with Coach Harrell. I said he's so humble. He's still so humble. That's why Coach Harrell got the job, because he even said it adds wins. I do believe it adds wins if players buy in, almost like the rough effect back in the day. Like, look, when stuff gets hard, what's going to happen? Do you want to play for the guy? Do you want to win for the guy? Do you want him there? And I certainly feel like they do. One thing I meant to ask, and shout out to my fiance Grace, who's producing right now, was would he be in the box or will he be on the sideline for games this year? He said he's going to be in the box just because most of this staff has been on the sideline. Look, Coach Harrell's the head coach now. He's obviously was defense coordinator and was on the sideline last year towards the end of the year, so he can talk to those guys. He has a relationship with those guys. Coach Tesh has been there. Teron Williams, a new defensive backs coach, actually was there when I was there. He had a lot of different roles when I was there, so excited to have him back. So on that really refreshing interview, Caden is actually out of town traveling in Boston. This is our last episode in the studio, but we are still having in-person interviews, just either in Dallas or Caden actually has his own setup now at his house, which is really, really cool. Exciting news. We talked about it last week, just dabbled in it a little bit and kind of announced it, but Caden will be doing, I think he's going to call it the backup plan with Caden Norman. It's a 5 to 7 minute social media interview segment type thing. He's going to have really, really fun with it. If you've watched Barstool, it's going to be kind of like Sunday Conversation. So tune in for that, for updates with me as well and just my journey in the UFL. I'll do a lot of behind the scenes stuff this year at Holt Ahlers Show on X. Excuse me. But we're going to continue this thing growing. We're going to continue to grow. Appreciate you guys for the support we always have. This is the People's Podcast. Anything you want to see here, any people you want to hear from, tag us at Holt Ahlers Show. But yeah, just follow along. We're going to do 2 pods a month while I'm playing in the UFL plus Caden's show. Caden's going to be a weekly show. And then obviously, like I said, follow the X or Twitter, whatever you call it, if you want to stay up to date, on us. We're still going to be posting, pretty much daily. So stay up to date with that. But 2 episodes a month. Going to be in person. We have some really cool ones planned when I get to Dallas, so it'll be cool. But next time you see me, it will be in a different setup. So hopefully you like the new setup. Thanks for watching the show. See you next time.